The Roaring '20s is in full swing, the economy is booming, and people are flocking to the cities. Urban life is all the rage, and you're looking to capitalize. A new coastal landscape could be your chance to cash in. Welcome to Rolling Heights. In Rolling Heights, you are a general contractor looking to develop a fledgling seaside town into a bustling metropolis. You begin with a crew of 2 carpenters and 2 construction workers. You also take a rolling box, ownership markers, and 2 endgame target tiles. After all players claim a starting position on the map, the game is ready to begin. On your turn, gather up to 10 of your crew and roll them in your box. Any workers that are standing or on their side are removed and will be active for your turn. If more than half of your workers are still laying down, pick them up and roll them again. Continue doing this until at least half of them are standing or on their side. Now you have a choice. You can continue rolling your workers or move on to the main phase of your turn. If you decide to push your luck, roll your workers again. If at least one of them is standing or on its side, remove them and place them with the others. You can continue to push your luck, but if you roll and all of them are laying down, you've pushed them too hard and they will go on strike. When this happens, take half of your active workers and place them back in the box. Also, take a wild resource token and begin the main phase of your turn. During the main phase, you can activate your workers by laying them down and activating their ability. If the worker is standing, it will grant a stronger ability than if it's on its side. Many of the workers grant resources. The brown carpenter grants 2 wood if standing, and 1 if it's on its side. The gray worker grants concrete, clear glass, and blue steel. With these resources, you can buy a building plan from one of the 2 markets at the indicated price. Tiles are more expensive the higher up you go in the market, and if you purchase one of the tiles that was not one of the 2 at the end, place a wild token near each of those tiles as incentive for future purchases. Now, place the tile on the map. Some spaces have an additional cost paid in resources, and some grant bonus points if you put a matching tile on it. You must also pay a cost the further you place a tile from one of your already placed tiles. Then, place one of your markers on it to show ownership. On your turn, you can also build any tiles you have on the map. Simply stack the number of resources indicated on one of your tiles. It's okay if you don't have enough to finish the building, you can finish it on a future turn. When you do complete a building, place your marker on top to show that it is complete, and then you will claim the victory points indicated on the bottom. Also, gain the indicated worker and add them to your workforce to be used in future turns. Play continues around the table until one of the resources is exhausted and triggers the end of the game. You will select one of your endgame target tiles to score and add points for the 3 randomly selected endgame objectives that were laid out during setup. Whoever has the most points is the winner. I have to admit up front that I'm a huge city building fan in all forms. I've played countless hours of SimCity, and whenever there's a new city building board game, I'm keen to try it. I may be predisposed to liking Rolling Heights because of my love for the genre, but that's not the only reason that I enjoy it. Examining the basic game loop of Rolling Heights reveals pretty standard board game fare. Roll for some resources, turn them in for some points, and waste to get more resources, to get more points, and so on and so on. It's stuff we've all seen before in myriad other games. It's not a bad loop, it's just one that we've seen plenty of times before, and like most things in life, it all comes down to the execution. The way that Rolling Heights executes on these concepts is so delightful that I couldn't help but be charmed by it, and it all begins with the humble meeple. Conceptually, there shouldn't be too much difference between rolling meeples and rolling dice, but in practice, it works so well in this instance that I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. The meeple shifts the resource gathering portion of your turn from statistical analysis of dice to a more character-driven experience. They aren't just random number generators, they literally lie down when they fail you. They'll call in sick or they're incompetent, and then they stand proud when they pull through. Way to go, Glassmaker! If you were to ask me what the odds of a meeple standing on its feet are, I wouldn't know what to say. After rolling hundreds of meeples now, I still don't have a good sense of how often I'll get a good roll or a bad one. But it doesn't stop me from trying different rolling techniques to sway things in my favor. There's something about the unique shape of a meeple that lends itself to experimentation. Although this uncertainty of results did mean I was less willing to push my luck when rolling. I only ended up doing it a handful of times, but the game doesn't suffer for it. While many of the workers simply grant resources, the others are a little more varied. The pink city planner allows you a risk-free reroll, while the magenta executive grants virtual currency for buying tiles. They are fun enough, but the gold politician is a weak link in the chain. It grants you victory points, which is certainly important for winning, but it doesn't help you interact with one of the best parts of the game, construction. Building materials are your form of currency for paying for tiles and their placement, but naturally, they are also important for building. One of the most clever bits of the game is that you lose all of your resources at the end of your turn, so you are incentivized to start construction even if you can't finish building for some time. That means the landscape becomes peppered with half-built skyscrapers and factories. It gives a real sense of growth and expansion while leaving room for you to interject some flavor. This project got stalled due to a labor dispute, and the financing fell through for the luxury apartments. It's growth on a more granular scale that's not often seen in a board game. It also makes for a wonderful visual representation of everyone's progress and takes advantage of the physical medium. Too often, board games are just tokens and tiles laying flat on the board that don't take advantage of the texture and depth that existing in the physical world can provide. Seeing a towering high-rise across from a sprawling estate provides a sense of scale and place that is so endearing that it masks the fact that you're just fulfilling recipes. Stacking and assembling buildings grants the sort of satisfaction you get from putting together a Lego set, but on a less intricate scale. By the end of the game, you're left with a cityscape that resembles an actual cityscape. Coupled with the rolling meeples, Rolling Heights is a wonderful example of physical design. It's easy to dismiss such things as gimmicks, but that would be underselling the importance of touch and dimension. Interacting with physical objects can be satisfying in its own right, and luckily Rolling Heights pairs it with a solid game as well. It's not all rosy, however. The markets are strangely large. There are 2 separate markets. The level 1 market offers easier to complete buildings that rely mostly on wood and concrete. They will also reward you with steel and glass workers, which are needed for the buildings in the level 2 market. With so many options available at any given time, the game can really bog down if anyone is insistent on weighing every option. It seems at odd with a game that has you rolling meeples. To go from such a whimsical action to examining 20 different options for the one that suits you best results in some pacing whiplash. It feels like the spirit of the game is better served if you just play fast and loose with your selection, and focus on the few cheaper tiles at the end. Is it the best strategy for winning? Likely not, but sometimes it's not all about winning. The large markets also undercut some of the strong physical design exhibited elsewhere. When you purchase a tile, every other tile has to shift down to fill in the empty space. It's not hard to do, but it is tedious. There are some other places that the physical design falters a bit as well. For as cool as the building blocks are, it can be a little tricky to finagle your fingers into position and carefully place a block in a crowded area. Something to keep in mind if your motor skills aren't the best. Additionally, once you start construction and cover up the numbers on the tile, the only way to tell how high a building should go is the tiny legend on the left side of the tile. For my eyes, it's not easy to see from across the table. So far, everything I've mentioned is fairly solitary. You roll your own meeples to buy your own building plans to develop your own plots. But the game does incentivize map control with the plot bonuses. The victory point rewards for placing the right tile in the right spots is strong enough to pull you towards them. This leads to players heading in the same directions, hoping to cash in on some easy points. And once you start building in the same vicinity, getting blocked in is a real possibility. You can always pay to get out of a tight corner, so it's not too punishing, but it does interject a nice bit of interaction. Perhaps the best example of Rolling Heights' toyetic nature is unfortunately locked behind an exclusive promotional item, the Angry Ape. With this small, legally distinct from King Kong piece of plastic, Rolling Heights shows off a whimsical display of physicality. The winner of the main game will drop the ape on the completed city, hoping to demolish tall buildings, while the other players take turns trying to knock him to the ground. It's so silly and absurd that I can't help but smile just thinking about it. Rolling Heights is at its best when you can embrace its charm. While not the most strategic game there is, it's not completely brain-dead either. Molding your workforce to suit your particular needs can take a bit of planning and is rewarding when you get exactly the resources that you need. Of course, due to the random nature of the rolls, you might be a victim of luck as much as you are a beneficiary. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, you still get to roll some meeples, you still get to stack some blocks, and you still get to smash some buildings. Sounds like a victory to me.